This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I want to talk about important shifts in the mainstream media and indeed in the sources and analyses of news that Americans now have. Big changes are going on, and I want to talk about them, and I want to be critical of some interpretations of what these changes mean. So let's begin this way. For the week ended on Sunday, December 6th, CNN, for the first time in a long time, had a larger audience than Fox News. That's quite a change in the landscape of mainstream media in this country. Fox News, which was the great leader for quite a while, a key support for Mr. Trump, as I'm sure you all know, is now beset by attacks from both sides. Its competitors to the left, MSNBC, CNN, and so on, are growing at its expense, and it now has challengers to its right, Newsmax and One America. These are major shifts, and they are part of a larger process. The internet, particularly, has made it easy and attractive for all kinds of political perspectives to begin to produce the equivalent of radio and television programs, doing news analysis, doing news interpretation, and to go out and find audiences of people who want to hear or see this or that particular perspective. Gone are the days that I grew up in here in the United States when we basically had 3 or 4 radio and TV networks, and we had, in most areas, 1 or 2 newspapers, and they basically had the same line on most events. Variations were minor and small. That was true of ABC, NBC, and CBS. It was true of the newspapers in the cities that I lived in Ohio, in New York, and in Massachusetts, which is where I spent much of my time, Connecticut as well. So I see a wide opening, a diversification of perspectives, an opening up to be able to easily access different perspectives. I welcome this. This is an opening up that is long overdue. It is not the way some seem to see it, some sort of, gee, now we won't be sure that we're getting the truth. We'll be stuck in our little silos, our little villages, where we just listen to what we agree with. I understand the upset of those who think like that. They were happy with what ABC, NBC, CBS, what the mainstream was doing. They liked everybody marching in step. And they convinced themselves that this wasn't an interesting group of people marching in a particular way, looking at the world in a particular way, analyzing politics in a particular way. No, they christened this particular perspective as though it were the truth. And everybody disagreeing was a tampering with the truth. This is arrogant, and this is philosophic nonsense. There are different ways of looking at the world. Perfectly reasonable for you to find some more persuasive than others, and you ought to wonder why you do. But to designate the ones you like as the truth and what everybody else likes as falsity, that's a very dangerous path to go down. So I welcome, and I urge all of you to, that we have a very great diversity now, finally. Let me tell you a story of other countries that have had this for a long time. I'm going to pick the country I know best, France, but the other countries have the same. In France, for decades, there have been 2 major sources of newspaper stories that are carried in the newspaper. One is a right-wing paper called Le Figaro, everywhere available in France. The other one, left of center, is called Le Monde, the World, and it is available everywhere. And it allows you immediately to get 2 alternative perspectives on anything that happens during the day. But there are also further daily papers on the left and on the right. If you go into a typical newsstand anywhere in France, you will see the Figaro, you'll see Le Monde, but you'll see others. The communist daily newspaper, L'Humanité. And then the local papers that are also daily, that are typically more on the right, etc., etc. And it was not at all uncommon throughout the last 50 years in France to see people sitting at a cafe with 2 or 3 newspapers when there was a topic, an event, where they wanted to understand the different perspectives. And the French would insist, I've had many such conversations, that you get a better understanding of what's going on looking at how people see it differently than if you're always stuck in the same perspective. And making that easy to do, which, by the way, the government-run TV also did, having all the different perspectives sequentially on Sunday mornings or so on, giving their perspective. These were very different experiences with media than what you had in the United States, which was commercially and uniformly one perspective, one way of doing things. So I welcome the diversity. I welcome the different points of view. Will there be some people who only follow and believe and listen and watch one perspective? Sure. There always were people like that. I'm sure we'll always have them. But what matters much more is that we now have a diversity, easily accessible, understand the different perspectives. And honest people searching to understand can and will be able to explore a diversity of perspectives that I couldn't for most of my life growing up in the very uniform universe of mainstream media in the United States. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.